The focus last week was on Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson, but let's not forget that the G League Ignite has plenty of other prospects worth paying attention to. Those include French playmaker Sidy Cissoko, 3-and-D wing Mojave King, who we've previously looked at on Floor and Ceiling, Canadian point forward Leonard Miller, and former Washington center F.A. Abougidi. All four have a legit shot at being drafted, so let's get into their games. This is Floor and Ceiling, let's break it down. Leonard Miller has one of the more interesting stories of this draft cycle, and I thought he really helped himself over 2 games in Vegas. We'll get into him more later on, but he's a point forward out of Canada who's probably about 6'10", 6'11". Miller looks a bit unorthodox when he plays, and part of that is his funky jump shot, which we'll get into very shortly. But Miller also possesses real creativity. He can put the ball on the floor at his size, and he's already giving the Ignite team his versatility. Like we're seeing here, there were a couple of times where Miller got to the basket and was able to finish. In my opinion, anytime a guy that size moves like this, it's worth paying attention to. Of course, there's the shot. Truth be told, it's early to come to conclusions, but I would be lying if I said that I did not have my concerns about how exactly this translates to the NBA. Yet, Miller is not necessarily a non-shooter. I think no matter what, some tweaks are bound to happen. But Miller, who chose the G League Ignite over college, made a fair share of pull-ups last week. Let's see how it goes during the season though, because this is where my worries kick in. Sure, Miller doesn't mind shooting from deep. Like we just saw, he can let it fly and make those shots. But at the same time, other teams don't really mind giving him that time and space. Simply put, he must convert on these looks. If Miller is wide open and he's being empowered to shoot threes, then these are simply shots that have to go in. Otherwise, defenses will quickly pick up on this and Miller's overall game will be impacted significantly. For me, this is especially important if the G League Ignite want to keep playing him at the 5. We saw a bit of this during Game 2 against Metropolitans 92, and I was intrigued. The floor opened up so much more when it was Miller surrounded by 4 other guards who could shoot. This look creates better spacing for the Ignite team, but that spacing also puts the ball in Miller's hands more and gives him room to make decisions. If this is a look that Coach Jason Hart turns to more during the season, then I will want to see Miller fine-tune his defensive instincts. It's a small sample size and against Victor Wembanyama, but I'm not sure that he has that natural proactiveness as a rim protector. Honestly though, that's fair enough because that's never been his role. Rather, it's just something that I want to see more of, especially since Miller has gotten stronger. He still has to work on finishing through contact and staying on balance more consistently. Here, Miller can't get to his spot, but I was impressed because it seemed like Miller had put on muscle while remaining agile, and in turn, the Canadian point forward was then able to stonewall possessions such as this. Here, he does a solid job playing Victor Wembanyama in the post. And again here, you see him staying on balance and walling off the drive. Mojave King joined the Ignite program out of the Australian NBL without much fanfare, but he made a big time impression against Metropolitans 92. Watching live, I really liked Mojave in Game 2, but after going back over the tape, I realized that he did just as many interesting things in Game 1. The first thing to note is his defense. The New Zealand-born wing always plays with intensity and active hands. In Vegas, he was a defensive playmaker in multiple ways, using his length in the first clip, and then here, his strength. Even in transition here, King is disciplined, staying with the Euro and coming up with the block. This right here, I really love. The game is pretty much over, but Mojave is still picking up full court, walling his man off and forcing the miss even if it doesn't mean anything. His team defense was nice as well. Here, King has his head on a swivel. He quickly sinks on the Wembanyama roll, and then it's a great closeout to the perimeter. It's a similar thing here, but in the final moments of the game. Mojave again makes the right read and comes up with a big play. Getting into his offense, the most important note is that King made 3 of his 6 threes in last week's exhibitions. I don't expect him to shoot 50% for the season obviously, but an improvement would be important. His form is looking nice right now, and the percentages have never been terrible, but the volume has always been low. Like with Miller, making open looks will be important for Mojave. It's a slightly different thing though, because I think Miller is a more well-rounded offensive player, so he has other tools to offset that improvement area. With Mojave though, there are flashes, but you want to keep his role for now on this end simple. For example, it's obvious that King is very right-handed. After Scoot Henderson's injury, he handled the ball for short spurts and struggled. You can see that here. All of this means that most of his looks will be created by others or coming out of actions. As long as King keeps finishing at the rim and coming up with quote-unquote the little things, not just on defense but also on the other side of the ball, that's fine. And I think he shows his value here with this awesome tip dunk. In many ways, Sidy Cissoko might be the player who links this G League Ignite team together. The French guard played in Spain last season before becoming the first European prospect to sign with the Ignite. Now in the US, it seems like Sissoko is going to see more minutes at the wing instead of at the guard. This makes sense given his roster's makeup as well as Sissoko's strengths and improvement areas. In Vegas, similar to Mojave King, he made his money on the defensive end. Sissoko now stands closer to 6'8", which allows him to guard up and down positions. When all is said and done, I think we're going to see him on both guard spots, a lot of threes, and maybe some fours. As we're going to see over these clips, a lot of his highlights, so to speak, are not that flashy or spectacular. Rather, it's a case of multiple efforts and little things adding up over the course of a game. Sissoko's offense is still a work in progress, and we'll get into that shortly. But I think the fact that I still came away impressed by him, even after he went 3 for 12 from the field, speaks volumes about Sissoko's defense. On this end, he did a little bit of everything. He used his length effectively, racking up steals and blocks. He was also tough, crashing the offensive glass, trying to keep the ball alive for his team. And all of these plays are the type that a coach will love. Even if Sissoko's offense takes a little bit to develop, these might be enough to keep him on the floor most nights. In Vegas, the 18-year-old really struggled down the other end of the floor. I don't want to give this too much urgency because it's a tiny sample size. My takeaway, like I implied, is that the Ignite team is moving Sissoko away from the guard and to the wing, and there will be an adjustment curve. In order for that to be a more seamless transition, the former Baskonia product will have to make open looks. You've probably noticed that this is a theme throughout this video. Well, that's for a reason. A lot of Ignite prospects this year have shooting as their swing skill, and of course it's also a sign of how important this is in today's game. I've had my eye on Sissoko for a while, and yes, he remains very raw, but I think he's also a more promising shooter and decision maker than what he showed against Metropolitans. These clips here are from last season, and I think they show that. Don't get me wrong, these improvement areas are very real. For example, his three-pointer has always hovered at about 25%. But also keep in mind that Sissoko has to bet into the American game, and also into a new skill set on the wing. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm excited to see how he develops and check in on him a few months down the line. Let's wrap things up with F.A. Abugidi, who took yet another route to the Ignite. F.A. joined the team after 2 years at Washington State, becoming the first college to G League Ignite prospect since the program started. Truth be told, I hope this pathway continues. Abugidi is 21 but remains really raw, in a good way though. But first things first, he's good at the basics for a big right now. At around 6'10" with a huge 7'4" wingspan, Abugidi can play above the rim, and he's most comfortable in my opinion right at the basket. Compared to his college days, I expect the Nigerian big shot diet to change a little bit this year. With the guards that Ignite has, FA should get more of these looks at the rim, where he made a strong 74% of his shots there last season. There's flashes of more that pique my interest, and we saw that in the previous 2 years, but let's wait and see to see exactly how he plays this season. On defense, he's gonna have to keep developing. Like I noted in my article for the Sporting Tribune, it was really interesting for me live to watch how the coaching staff for the G League Ignite was super attentive to everything Abugidi did. They were encouraging him, correcting him constantly, and I think that shows their investment. You ask me, and that investment is worth it when you take into account Abugidi's two-way potential.